So, yeah, case update. Amber Shelton. Many questions about this case. So before I get into all that, I'm Rebecca. This is my channel, Red True Crime. And if you are new to the channel, welcome. Thank you for joining me. If you are back from before, welcome back. Thank you again for the support. And if you have not done so already, please subscribe to the channel, share, comment, like, all that good stuff, because it gets out there to other people, especially the missing people cases I talk about. So now that I've said all that, let's get into what I'm talking about tonight. So on December 9th, 2024, Amber Shelton went missing, or was reported missing, I should say. And there was a case that I started covering like right after she went missing. I think I got onto it like in beginning of January. And I've talked to her friends and I've talked to her family, and I did some talk about it. Went out there, blasted Greensboro PD because they weren't doing what I felt their due diligence in her case. Amber Shelton is a 33-year-old Black woman out of Greensboro. She's also gay. I thought there was a lot of bias involved in her case, lack of investigation because she is gay. I did feel that way. I still feel that way. So all the leads that the police had were coming from a woman by the name of Sherry Mapp. Sherry Mapp was Amber's girlfriend. And you're like, Rebecca, what's with the air quotes? Air quotes because Sherry Mapp and Amber were in a relationship. Sherry Mapp also has a husband and a child and was still involved in that relationship. So, which made things very complicated. She tried to play it off like it was like a whole not polyamorous, but like a throuple type situation. But like she and Amber were together and then she and the husband were together. No, was not that. Husband knew about Amber. Amber didn't really necessarily know about the husband. And when she found out, she was not happy. So there was a lot of strife going on. So when Amber was reported missing by Amber, not by Amber, but by Sherry, everything that they had for investigation pretty much came from Sherry. She manipulated the whole thing. She presented everything as a whole, the whole case. And they bought it hook, line, and sinker. I don't understand why that was happening, but that's what they did. So let's fast forward a little bit. March 5th, 2025. A body washes up under a bridge in the Greensboro Arboretum Park. And it turns out to be Amber Shelton's body. She is taken to the office of the medical examiner of North Carolina up in Raleigh. They do their investigation on their end, and they rule her manner of death as suicide due to a gunshot wound. So since that happened, I have been trying to get a copy of the autopsy report so I could read it for myself to see what it was that they found, what did they see, what didn't they see. And it took me a minute, and I finally got it today. And I've read it, and I am just flabbergasted because this report is nothing but one big contradiction from start to finish. So we're going to go back. Let me get back in here and get out of this and go to another page. So it sends you an investigation PDF or an investigation report, and then you get the actual autopsy report. And then you actually have a toxicology report. So, but we're going to get into all of that. So let's get into the investigation report. So the report of the investigation by the medical examiner of one Amber Shelton. It has where she was living at the time, her age, her age is listed incorrectly. And it talks about, onset of injury or illness, basically when the body was found, that was March 5th. Hello. And it shows where the body was found. That was in Ashland Drive in Greensboro, which is the Greensboro Arboretum. We go further down. Talks about the officer who's in charge of the investigation. Talks about, the ME was authorized to do this thing. And then it talks about Matt 7U. Hi. It gives the cause of death. The cause of death is iced out Riz. Okay. Hi. Cause of death is a gunshot wound of the torso. Okay. So there's that. Then it gives the manner of death. Now, manner of death is where they say it's natural, accident, homicide, suicide, or undetermined. They check suicide. So let's just say this. You are not liking yourself. You want to hurt yourself. You want to take yourself out of the equation. Are you going to hurt yourself and shoot yourself in the chest? No. You're going to go here, you're going to go here, here, but that doesn't make any sense. But we'll get more into that here in a minute. So get further down, and then we've got, okay. Go into her medical history. Now, this is key. Medical history: alcoholism, cancer, depression, diabetes, hypertension, ischemic heart disease, seizure disorder, smoking, or substance abuse, or other. None of that's checked. Means of death, it goes into like vehicle, gunshot, which we know it was a gunshot. Dude, why do you want to be banned? Anyway, so goes through a little bit of that, and then we go further down. Like, was she hurt on her job? No. Was she sick? No. You know, was it fire? Was it instrument? Was it this? Was it that? None of that. Hi, Olivia. And let's see, we get further down. Okay. So it gives a description of the body. It was decomposed because she had been under that bridge for 3 months, or actually in water for 3 months, and she washed under the bridge. I did a live from the scene where she was found. So that's on my channel. If you guys will watch that, you'll see the area where it was. And it gives her weight estimate, her height estimate, all that stuff. All right. Body diagrams. Doesn't really check anything right here. Okay. So this is where we're going to talk. The decedent has no known medical, surgical, drug, or past suicide history. So remember that. Remember that, okay? I said that right there. And it says on December 9th, 2024, the decedent, which is Amber, was last seen leaving her apartment. The decedent never returned home and was later reported missing. It was reported that the decedent left the home with nothing but a gun of unknown type. On March 5th, 2025, an unknown decomposed body was discovered under a bridge at a local park in Greensboro. An unknown person was found face up, clothed with a shirt pulled up to the neck area. The unknown person appeared to be a female and was laying on some rocks in a stream of water. The unknown person was not submerged. No obvious signs of injury or trauma. Let's see. Upon investigation, the unknown person was removed by fire. Fire department came and got her out, put her up on the upper hill. They noticed the tattoos on her body, and the police were able to identify some. It was, at that time, they believed to know that it was Amber Shelton laying there. Okay. And then the clothes matched up to what they were reported last wearing, and then everybody, the body was sent to the office of the medical examiner. So that's this report. Now we're going to get into the autopsy. Autopsy gives so much more information. It does say that it was a gunshot wound to the torso. Breaks down like where the shot was, what things were damaged. It says here there was no soot, no gunpowder stippling seen or on the surrounding skin. Now, she did have 2 gunshot wounds, but it was one gunshot. So it went in her chest and out her back, or in her back and out her chest. And we'll get to that in here in a second. So we go through all of this. It says body condition was decomposed. It says, and it does talk about how the body received in a zip body bag sealed with a tamper-evident plastic lock, gives the lock number. Talks about what she had, which was she was in a long sleeve black shirt, jacket, silk bonnet, balaclava, gray pants, 2 black socks, black underwear, 2 black shoes. 3 yellow metal nose rings were inserted, and then she had ear gauges. Body, and it says that she was a very normally developed, well-nourished, dark-complected female in the state of advanced decomposition. And it talks about there was some skin slippage, meaning, she was so decomposed, her skin was literally just slipping off. It also does talk about how it looked like there had been some animal scavenging on her body. and talked about how her hair was becoming decontached, but everything else about her, like there was no other trauma. There was no sexual trauma. There was no body, like she was beaten up, none of that. So we're going to go a little bit further down. Then it goes into more about the gunshot wound of the torso. So it says here she was shot in the upper chest. And the picture shows it like right here. And that there was a bullet wound down here in the back. So meaning for that to travel downward like that, the gun would have to be like this, which makes no sense. And it also says that during the track that, you know, she had a hemothorax, meaning a collapsed lung, and a few other things. So, and some cracked ribs. Talks about body cavities, her heart, you know, she did have some damage to her heart, but that's also from the gunshot wound. But let's get all the way down to the bottom. Summary and interpretation. So let's start right here. I'm going to read you what they said, and then I'm going to tell you why this is such nonsense. According to the information received from the Guilford County Medical Examiner and Greensboro Police Department, this 33-year-old female had a history of suicidal ideations. Now, do you remember when I read the report on the other page that Miss Shelton had no medical history of suicide, depression, surgery, drug use, alcohol use? None of that. None of that. But it says right here in this report, according to the information, she had a history of suicidal ideations. Where? According to law enforcement, on 12/9/2024, her girlfriend reported her missing, stating that she had been displaying concerning behavior. She reported that at 3:25 that morning, she woke up and found Miss Shelton in the living room fully dressed. She observed a handgun on the table next to the door. When she asked Miss Shelton about the gun, Miss Shelton responded that she did not need to worry and that she would come back later to collect her belongings. When law enforcement checked the residence, the agent found a single rose, a wallet with cards in it, a cell phone resting on the counter, and a note with what appeared to be account names and numbers on it. The girlfriend stated that there was a location in the woods that Miss Shelton had spoken of and where she might have gone. She also reported that Miss Shelton had sent a text resigning from her job and that she had been going through a depressive episode due to recent eviction notice for her apartment. The girlfriend stated that Miss Shelton had a history of depressive episodes and had previous suicidal ideations, but was not seeking any professional aid. A search of the residence revealed Miss Shelton's handgun, a black Taurus G2C 9mm, was not in the home. However, the case was located on a table instead of in the usual place behind the bed. Additionally, a receipt for the firearm and with a serial number, an approval letter for a pistol purchase, an eviction notice, as well as multiple notes suggestive of suicidal ideations were located in the residence. Miss Shelton was last known alive wearing, and it gives her a description. And then it talks about how the body was found, how a bystander walking through the park was looking down below the bridge and saw her. All that was there. So let's go. Oh, here's the other thing. They found her under this bridge, but the gun was found upstream on the bank. Now, she went missing December 9th. She wasn't found until March 5th. So how on earth does a gun, a handgun, stay on the bank of the river, bank of a stream, out in the open in a very busy park, and no one sees it for 3 months? Make that make sense. So the end of this report, it says, based on the autopsy findings and circumstances surrounding the death, meaning what they were told was going on before she died, as currently understood, the cause of death is listed as gunshot wound of the torso, and the manner of death is suicide. So now there is a part of this where it does say they don't know, and they can't, because she is so decomposed, they can't tell you where the bullet went in and went out. Like, if it went in here and went out there, or went in there and came out this way. They don't know, based on, because her body is so decomposed. So according to the diagram, it shows where the bullet wounds are. So the first one is, let's see here. Yeah. So it's right here, and it goes out this way. That's the other one right here. So she either shot herself like this, or she shot herself like that, which you can't physically do. It just doesn't work. Well, this way, yes, but that it doesn't work that way. Why would she do that? She has no history of suicide, none. When she left her apartment, she left her cell phone, she left her wallet, she left her cards. She also left an uncashed check of $1,200. Yeah, you're losing your apartment, but you have money to go get another one. She also had an arrangement with a friend in Virginia to possibly go move up to Virginia and start over again. But here's the thing, if she went up to Virginia, guess who wasn't going to be able to go with her? Sherry Mapp. Guess who didn't want to leave her? Sherry Mapp. Guess who was controlling everything? Sherry Mapp. Guess who the police are taking everything as gospel? Sherry Mapp. Sherry Mapp had the code to her phone. Sherry Mapp had access to everything in that house. We don't even know that she actually went missing on the 9th. No one, because when I talked to people, the last anybody saw her was like December 6th. So she could have been gone for a couple of days before she was reported missing. Well, we don't know. So again, Sherry Mapp, Sherry Mapp, Sherry Mapp. The notes that show suicidal ideations, family doesn't know anything about those notes. They've not seen those. Her friends have not seen those. The detective went to her home, went to her mom's house and said, yeah, she hurt herself, but didn't show her the notes. How do you know she wrote those? Did you show somebody? Like, is this her handwriting? No, they didn't do any of that. So Greensboro PD, again, more evidence that you failed to do what you were supposed to be doing. You didn't investigate. You didn't do your due diligence. All you did was take this girl's word that, she was depressed and ran with it. You need to reopen this case. You need to look into this because I don't believe she hurt herself. I think she struggled, lured to that park, struggled for the gun, and got shot. That's one theory. The other theory is Sherry Mapp's a jealous bitch, possessive, didn't want to lose a meal ticket, possibly, and killed her herself. More like, if I can't have you, nobody will. Because you've got social media posts where Amber's tired and Sherry is just doing what she can. I'm gonna be with my girlfriend. I'm gonna be with my stud. All this other stuff. But then when Amber went missing, oh, we weren't together. We were never together. We were never girlfriends or whatever. Never. So which is it? Were you together? Were you not together? Are you the girlfriend? Or are you not the girlfriend? Why are you telling the police that you're the girlfriend, but you're telling everybody else that you're not? What's going on here, Sherry? You know what happened. I believe you pulled the trigger. That's my opinion. But I can't prove that. But 90% of this autopsy report, anything outside of the science, where they actually physically looked at the body and did their investigation, and examined the body, that's all legit. These stories about the suicide ideations, the gun, the notes, all that crap, all of this is coming from the brainchild of Sherry Mapp. Sherry Mapp needs to be put in a chair under the hot lamps, sweated, and beaten with a phone book. That's what I think. Go old school on her ass because she knows what happened. Nobody believes this was suicide. Nobody does. And I've got the report here. I mean, you read it reads like science fiction. It really does. So I just want to bring this up because this is a case that's bothered me since the beginning, and nobody's listening. Nobody's listening. So I'm going to hop off here. My name is Rebecca. This is Red True Crime. Have a great evening. Be weird, be rude, be safe. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. And share, like, and comment. So thank you all. Have a great weekend. Happy Memorial Day. Be safe. Bye.